Hello and welcome to another interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching well over 1,000 comedians for nearly 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. It's the wonderful Louise Atkinson. Yes! Hello!
Hello. 1,000 comedians, is that true?
It's extraordinary. It's something like 1,200 in the last 50 years. It's just bonkers.
So you're like a real life comedian specific Wikipedia. Like if I ever needed any comedian knowledge, you were the person I come to.
That's the idea. The blog is acting like an archive. I think I'm going to leave people, but it's wonderful because there's a blog and this podcast as well, where I get to interview some of my favorite people, you being one of them, some of my favorite comedians. So there we go. So the interview is going to last about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Going to go right back. It's all about your career. And if you can tell me first off, please, how did you become a comedian in the first place?
I can. Basically, I was actually dating somebody at the time who was interested in getting into stand-up comedy.
Right.
I was researching comedy courses for them. And there was the one that seemed I'm very good at admin. And research. And the one that seemed the most popular had a really long waiting list. So I put on, and I was going to buy it for them for their birthday. But they broke up with me instead.
Right.
And literally that day, I got an email from this comedy course going, "Oh, there's been a cancellation and there's one place left. Would you like it?" And I was just about to forward it to them. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it. So out of driven by spite, I did.
That's brilliant.
And yeah, it went from there. And it was really nice because I made a very lovely, it was a very lovely group on that comedy. Josh Bolf was on my comedy course.
Yeah.
That's where we met.
Been on here, wonderful comedian, always makes me laugh.
Absolutely. As much as I hate to compliment him, he's also a very good friend as well. So very nice boy. But yeah, we had a really nice group. So it was a really nice, supportive atmosphere, which made everything that little bit easier when you start out, when you've got a nice supportive group who are going through the same stuff. So I'm really, really glad I did it that way. Some people get a bit snobbish about comedy courses, but as long as it's something that helps you out and makes you feel better, it doesn't really matter.
I totally agree. What sort of year was this?
When was this? 2018?
Right.
Yeah, because I started comedy when I was 29. So yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
So when you first started, did the comedy course lead to your first 5 minutes or first gig or something like that?
Yeah. So the idea is that you spent the first, because we did. I'm allowed to say the course I did, aren't I? There's it's not the BBC. There's not restrictions here. We did Logan Murray's course, and Logan is a wonderful, wonderful man and a terrific teacher. And the first few weeks you spend essentially learning how to become an idiot, his own words, and being comfortable with being an idiot. And then the last couple of sessions are about you developing your 5-minute sets, and then you can be sent into the world with this 5-minute set that you can then do whatever you want with. So you did like a little showcase, and then most of us went and did our first ever proper stand-up at it was at the Rose and Crown pub in Kentish Town, and it was Sunday Shtick. Is that what it was called then? It's it transferred many times, many different names, but it's very comedy films. It's like a very grotty basement where all the sexiest comedy is performed. And because we were just such a lovely group for quite a while, because we just went round with each other, and there was always at least 2 other of us there to support, and we just helped each other and made each other feel better for quite a while, helping each other with our 5 minutes. It was really nice. Yeah.
So did you progress with the 5 minutes? Did you get regular work? Was the space within all the other different clubs that you could go to, and all the free nights? Did you go along with did a friend go along with you for support?
Yeah, so there was quite a few of us in this group, and we basically had a group WhatsApp. It was like, is anyone free to come tonight? And then they all, like, because we were quite lucky because we developed our 5 minutes. It was then about getting stage confidence, right? Because you don't know what you're doing, and it's terrifying, and there's all these people looking at you. And because we kept going together, we could see each other grow and develop. And it was like, oh, this time you said that joke like this, and I think it worked better. And it was never meant, you know, in a sort of what's the word I'm looking for, like nasty kind of way. It was always very supportive, like, I've noticed you, and there was so many of us following each other that it was really good, because you could see where they'd gone from A to B, and we could all, you know, have a drink and talk about it. So, but yeah, because we had these 5 minutes, it did make it. We basically, as well, one of the women in the group on our first, at the end of the comedy course, she did a showcase, and she was very, very clever, and she hired a camera, and we filmed it. So we also had a video to send out very early on as well, which was very smart of her. And she was so nice, and she edited them all for all of us and things like that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, they're just really good.
That's lovely. That really is. The support early on, I would imagine, helps everybody, increases the confidence. You're in a group who can, you know, expand and talk about how performances went, etc. You know, that sort of thing. It's all good stuff. It's all experience. Yeah,
exactly. Because sometimes I think there are some people who maybe got unlucky, and some people can be quite competitive, especially, you know, if they're maybe not feeling secure in themselves or whatever, especially in comedy. So I think some people maybe, you know, occasionally get groups where it doesn't work like that. But we were really fortunate that pretty much everyone was on board and supported each other and wanted to help out, and just had their heart in the right place. So and it really helped as well for like definitely for the first few months, because we really stuck together and we'd meet up socially, and it made it a lot easier and a lot less terrifying.
That's great. I've been many a friend in a free stand-up comedy night for new comedians, and the story that comes to mind, I used to work in a school, and the teacher became a stand-up comedian, and he said, will you come along and support me? And I went along for about 20 times, so I knew exactly the 5 minutes, and I would sit there and I would laugh and like and he'd go, God, this is brilliant. Richie's back. And if he wasn't about, sit there. And so it's very good. I know a lot of the free comedy nights say always bring a friend, so you've got somebody there to support you. But it's wonderful that there was a group with you.
Yeah, as well, because you run out of non-comedy friends after a while, because at the start they're all very excited, and then they're like, Lou, I can't do this again. I need to go. I'm like, yeah, no, it's fair. I understand. So you need some comedy enthusiasts at the start, definitely. Not that my friends don't love me, but they, you know, have lives, and I clearly didn't. So there was just it was difficult to get them after a while.
Did you ever early on find it difficult getting gigs, or how did you go about finding where the free nights were? Was it just literally ringing up or contacting them?
So there was, Facebook's a really useful tool, and I'm going to really apologize to this person because I cannot remember the name of the person who did it, but someone created because I started in London, they created a London open mic map. Do you have it? Like, it's really useful, and it would have.
I don't know this.
Yeah, it's really good. And they just put it up on a Facebook page for free, so you had access to it, and it had the name of the night, website, an email address if they had one, or if you had and it was really useful because you could just go through that. And I also am very fortunate that because of my day job, I know to be utterly relentless with chasing up emails. So I know a few of my comedy friends would go, I messaged once and they didn't respond. I was like, unless you have messaged 20 times, I don't take that as a result. To be honest, I think most of my gigs have been got because they just want me to stop talking to them. And they're like, if we just give a response.
That's me with my laugh and my chant. No, never. It's. I tell you what it is. It's northernness. You're a northern lady, aren't you? Northern woman. Yeah. Whereabouts are you from in the north?
I'm from Hull.
Hull, fantastic. Mine. I'm from Carlisle. which is
right.
further up.
Yeah, I'm Midlands to you.
Well, that's wonderful, and it is northern, definitely.
Yeah, you just have to, but like, because people have lives, and I've done it. You check an email and then you forget about it, so you've got to keep going, especially when like you knew, and just utterly shameless. Is what it is.
But I will check out that open mic map.
Yeah,
literally, I'm just going to type that into Facebook and see what comes up.
It's like London open mic map or something. I'm so sorry to the person who created it, because I can't remember, because they've clearly done a lot of work for it. Actually,
and clearly it's helped you enormously.
Well, it originally started as an Excel, but I think they might have turned it into a website.
Right.
If I remember.
Right. Oh well. I shall endeavour that, definitely.
Yeah, because I'm doing something similar. Like, I made a Excel that was of all the comedy festivals in the
I saw that you sent that to me. Yeah.
And we're trying to turn that into we're trying to turn that into like not a website, but definitely a more interactive, useful tool. So it's good because people just want to help other people out, because you know how it feels like.
Well, it's so good, because that's similar to my blog. Not only am I championing all the popular comedians, I'm also it's all about the new talent as well coming up through the round. And wonderful thing about the blog is watching you all grow, because I've a classic example is Harry Hill, who I saw 30 years ago. And he still holds the record for the best opening line I've ever heard. He brushed past me downstairs at the King's Head. He was late for the show, jumped up on the stage, and he said, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I'm late. I had to have a testicle brought down." There was a pause, and everybody laughed. And then he said, "From Derby." And when I met him 25 years later, I told him this story. He went, "Oh, Rich," he said, "I still tell that to this day." and a classic example about him is that he's done it all. He's done the TV, he's played the arenas, and what's wonderful is he's back now in the clubs, which is great. You know, how good is that? Anyway,
you're like everyone's comedy dad. You're like everyone's favourite papa.
Well, I've got to get this laugh in Sherwood. That's what I'm going to try and do in 2023, because they all recognise it. Not very kind, by the way. Right, let's move on. What do you like to talk about on stage? Do you have any specific themes or anything like that?
I mainly go for observational stuff.
Sure.
I like that, you know, silly things happen and we can all relate to it. And but my biggest thing is I really love this is going to make me sound really simple, but I just really love words and like how you can play around with words. Before this I tried being Marcel Marceau and it didn't work. I was like, do you know what I mean? Words. That's what I mean. And possibly to read a book. I don't know, but like I just love play, you know, I love wordplay, and I'm not good enough to be like a pun person, because it's a very difficult skill. But you know, I just I like amalgamating words, or just how a sentence bounces when you just, like, for example, you know, just if you use the word, you know, custard cream in the right context, it could be hilarious. And I just love finding that out. I just think it's so silly, and I just love it. And I love seeing people's reaction to it. And, you know, working, especially, you know, if you say it with the right tone at the right place of a sentence, it's just utter silliness, and I love it.
That is fascinating, because who immediately come to mind was the first person I ever saw live with the family, with my mum and dad and my brother in Scarborough in 1974, and it was Les Dawson, and he was wonderful with words. Yeah. What a wordsmith that man was. The famous story about going down to the bottom of his garden and looking up to the sky and describing the moon and the stars. And he went on for about 10 minutes with all these elongated words. And he always had to have a top gag to finish it off. And he goes, the moon was flying across the sky and all this carry on. And then he said, as I sat there, I looked up and I suddenly realized that this toilet roof needs lagging. So there's always a topic. There's always a killer thing after building it up. It's wonderful.
because I used to like, obviously growing up, especially in the north, it was I think it's still a mandatory requirement that you have to watch Morecambe and Wise at least every
The
Christmas.
reason why I do this.
Exactly. But like, you know, and them and Eddie, what's his chops, used to write for them.
Eddie Graeber, who used to write for Ken Dodd as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just see how they play with words, and Victoria
it's magical.
Yeah. And I also used to watch a lot of Fry and Laurie, who I think always get forgotten for how clever they were with. There's one sketch they do which is so silly, and they play like these bankers from the 80s with the red braces, and it's just them essentially exclaiming John in different formats for like 5 minutes, and it's just so stupid, but the way they build it up with all the work is just fantastic. So I just love stuff like that. I just love silliness. That's love it.
Brilliant. That's so good. Mind you, the pun masters, Milton Jones, Tim Vine, Darren Walsh, even fantastic. Absolutely. But it is so clever how they do it.
So I'm friends with, very fortunate to be friends with as well, Adele Cliff, who was the UK pun champion. And like, I just see how she creates these ridiculous puns, and also like she's one of the phenomenal one-liner comedian, and to see her do that, and I'm sat here working my custard cream trying to work that into a joke, and I'm like, you're
hilarious as well, don't ever forget. You're hilarious.
You just figure out that it is just such a skill on its own. And storytelling's one, but it's so phenomenal what they can do with so many words.
How do you remember all your routines on stage? Do you have a way of remembering them? Do you write them down on your hand or notebook or anything like that?
No, I never do that. I one of the best pieces of advice and information I ever got given to me was actually by a teacher at school, and he told me I was an audio learner. At first I thought he was going to tell me off for not listening, but it was actually quite the opposite. He was like, no, you are listening. Because there's like 3 types of learning. You learn visually or kinesthetically or audio, and he was like, you're an audio learner. So for me, I have to hear myself say it so many times. So then it's almost like muscle memory. But you know, like if you're listening to a song, you're like, there should be a beat there. It's kind of like that. If I'm going through it, I'm like, there's something, and then I will just automate going, oh, I know I have to put something in here because it just it sounds right. I need it to sound right.
That's fascinating.
Like, because if you actually, I have a theory that quite a lot of comedians would or either already are or could be like quite good musicians, because the beats and sort of rhythm of comedy is similar-ish to me. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of musicians who want to hit me in the face right now, but I think
I totally agree with you. I think that's so good because it is, it's like ba-bum, 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 and then the killer gag and the line at the end.
And there's comedians have different rhythms, just like musicians, and genres and things like that. And I think it's incredibly similar. So to be able to hear it, and I'm like, oh, there's something, and that's why you test it out so much, because I need to hear when people are laughing to time it to get the rhythm right. So I just basically I have to inflict myself on people for a significant amount of time until I think it sounds right, and then I'm like, oh, I can go now. Thanks so much. And then
that's brilliant. The reason why I asked the question, remembering all your routines, the other most creative thing I've done apart from this blog, in 2007 I wrote a play which originally was for the Edinburgh Fringe, but me and my mate put it on for the to raise money for Comic Relief. We just put it in a little pub. And the play's called The Applicant. It's basically about me coming down from Carlisle to London, and I'd never had a job. So, and I've got a successful girlfriend who did a very successful job. And basically, it's a series of interviews. So I've never had a job to start with, and I increase. And when I get given my ideal job at the end of it, the interviewer kills me. So the last scene is me at the gates of heaven or hell, wherever we go, being interviewed by God, saying, we've been watching you on planet Earth, and we think you'd be excellent interviewing corpses. And I shouldn't, and that's it. Anyway, the point of the story was, it goes monologue, interview. So I'm in the waiting room, terrified at the start, looking at the audience, start talking to them. And I've written this great long monologue. And I ran out the first night we did it, 6 pages, and I forgot it. And I'd written it. And I was but what was interesting was, as soon as my mate came on who played all the different interviewers, we bantered and I brought it back straight away. So with somebody there, it was a lot easier. And I don't know whether that's the case. If you've got, I suppose your prop's the microphone.
Oh yeah, I hate people. I couldn't work with people. I'd have to stand there on my own. I kick people off. I'm like, what are you wasting my time? Get out of the way. Yeah, it's not for me. There's like I like talking to the audience.
Yeah,
I don't mind that, especially I'm not like if they're, you know, being horrendous, but like if it's, you know, it makes it a bit more jovial, doesn't it? And you just I always like the idea that, well, you are usually in a pub or a club, which is usually a social and friendly atmosphere. So why wouldn't I be friendly and social, unless you're being irritating? But like, you know, I like creating that warmth. I think it's nice, but
very much so.
I couldn't do a double act. I don't know if I could remember. I was just going to say, I don't know if I could remember a monologue, but I suppose that's literally what stand-up is. I've never thought of it like that before, but actually, I
don't know what the hell inspired me to write monologues. The best joke from that play was his name. I called him Norman Oliver Hope. So when he got the rejection letter, it was Dear No Hope, which always got a laugh. Anyway, just following on from that, have you ever suffered from nerves before you go on stage? Because you always come across as very confident when you're on stage. And I've watched you from very early on to now, and I've always thought that you walk out and you're like, right, you're, like you say, you're very endearing and very warm and very funny, and that helps enormously, I think, because you can then, once you start speaking, you can say what you like to the audience and get them on your side.
Well, that's very kind of you, because I often think I go out with the hope of a demeanour of being Miss Honey from Matilda and coming across much more Miss Trunchbull. So it's nice to know that I've actually got some sort of endearing quality.
Now you've said it, next time I'll see you.
You know, I think she's just misunderstood Miss Trunchbull. I think she's just in a bit of a mad, and I think she just needs a bit of a cake and some chili. Ate it. I'd be annoyed as well. You know what I mean? So I used to get really nervous. I used to get very I fidget a lot. I can't sit still. But basically I can't, because so for my day job, which I've had for many years in different in different industries, but I have to present and I have to talk a lot to very, very senior members of staff.
Right.
So I got quite used to passing it off that I was more confident than I was. Yeah. But I tell you what, I could easily walk into a room full of CEO people in the highest industries now and not care and be okay. But there's still sometimes, if I do a comedy set, I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna die. So it's really, it is. I think it's because it's more personal, isn't it? Like me shouting about quarterly figures, I don't really care about, Rich. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do care if people like my joke.
What's great though is that I have noticed watching your banter with the audience is very, very endearing, and you're the sort of comedian that I love, because it makes you want to say hello afterwards and have a beer with them afterwards, and because they're very warm, as I say, you can say what you like, or you give the impression that you're doing that.
And it's such a downfall, because as I've already mentioned, I hate people. So to have to create an environment where I'm like, I'm friendly. It's a cruel irony, to be honest with you.
Okay, fine.
No, but it's just, you know, well, it isn't. It's not just a northern. I think it's quite a working class thing. You just have to talk to folk, because you can't afford to do anything else, really, can you? So you just
that's the thing. That's the thing.
Chat at the bus stop kind of vibe. And you always, because I always like that, because you always find out. I love hearing people talk, because they come out with the most ridiculous things, and I love it. I actually did a gig just before, it was during Christmas, and as you'll know, Christmas gigs are very raucous and difficult for comedians. But I was talking to this woman on the front row while I was on, and she'd had quite a few, but like she just loved my stuff, and then just came up to me afterwards. Oh, she was inviting me on a night out. She, she was just having the time of, and then her girlfriends came and they were all offering me on a night out. I was like, we've never met. But
there you are, you see.
So much.
It's not just me.
No, it's not. I get it a lot.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, but I had another one because I did one in Leeds as well, so I'm obviously not too far from there.
Yeah,
and I'd been on, and there was a bloke being a bit of an arse, to be honest. And there was this group of girls who was near me, and they were all nurses, and they'd had a lovely time. And this is such a weird analogy, but this bloke was being a bit of an arse. And have you ever seen the Mighty Ducks, where they make the V, like the Mighty Duck V? Yes. That's what they did around me. These women had never met me before, but out of nowhere, they like we've been best mates for years. And I was like, that's very kind of you women I don't know the names of. Thank you so much. So apparently it is a problem. Other people
that is not good. I deservedly saw you at the Amused Moose. This was the first time I ever saw you. The Amused Moose National New Comic Final at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
What is your view of comedy competitions? Do you like them? Do you think they're of use?
I think that's a very good question. The best analogy I can give is I personally view them a little bit like like in a racing car game like Mario Kart or something. Yeah. They're like a power-up or like a speed ramp, and they can provide you with a little bit of an advantage or getting ahead a little bit for a while, but it doesn't mean that you're the best one to win the race, and it doesn't mean that you're a skilled racer. I think the best way to become a comedian, an actual comedian, is to go to the clubs and do them again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
But like when I did that Amuse Moose one, I think I've only been going. Well, by the time the final got there, I think I'd only been going 6 months. So by getting into the final, I'd only been going for 4 months. I didn't know my elbow from my ass, to be honest with you. Like I didn't know what I was doing. But it did provide a bit of confidence. It gets you a bit of awareness, and they're good. But I don't think that just because somebody has done well in competitions, that means you should take it that they're a good comedian. I always say, like, that's lovely that you've won that award. Could you go and do Wigan on a Friday night to 3 stag do's and 4 hen do's? Could you do that? Because that's the real competition. And if you can win that, you're solid.
You're away. Well, on the bill, let me get this right. On the bill was you, Josh Balk, and the winner was Maisie Adam.
Yeah.
And they were the 3, obviously, that stood out from all of them. And here we are. We've had Josh on the bill. We had Josh on the podcast. We had you on the podcast. We need Maisie Adam here as well.
I don't know what you're talking. Nobody's heard of Maisie. She's never on the TV. It's terrible.
No, I can't see it. That's why the 2 better ones are here.
Exactly.
Very much so, yeah. Let's move on to Edinburgh in general. I'm very, very lucky to have my holidays at the Edinburgh Fringe every year. I've been going since 2005. I've missed 2 because of the pandemic. Not the last year, but the last 2 years. And I go for a week and I see about 50 shows, and I'm exhausted by the end of it. But it's incredible. It's such a good vibe. Can you tell me about your first ever Edinburgh? Were you a punter? When did you perform? Did you perform in, did you do 15-minute sets with other comedians? Or when was your first solo show? All that sort of stuff.
So I actually, the first ever time I went, I was a normal muggle. I hadn't started comedy yet. Conveniently, my birthday falls at the end of August, which is when the bank holiday is.
Happy birthday. Mine's the 2nd of August at the start.
All the best people born in August. Fact.
I think we're the same star sign. Says a lot.
So a friend of mine, because I'd never been and I'd always wanted to go because I just love fringes and arts festivals. It's one of the joys of doing this is going to all the smaller ones and you just see it and people, I just love that people, it doesn't matter what walk of life they're from, everybody's like, isn't it lovely that this is here?
It's
and I'm
like,
brilliant.
It's so good.
But I went and I remember it because I really, Aisling B had just started being really quite big on TV and she was the first comedy show I saw at the Guild Saloon. And I didn't realise, and we went to get the tickets and the person behind the counter was like, these are like gold dust. And we were like, really? And then we felt very important. But it was the first one I saw and I saw it in the TV at Tevi, I can never pronounce it properly. And I saw them in the Guild Saloon and then just went and it's just such a lovely environment because you can obviously just go see absolutely anything in a cupboard or in the most random location and then you go have a drink and then that's your day. That's what you go to. But I very much enjoyed it more as a punter than I did being a comedian. I did not enjoy it as a comedian whatsoever.
Why is that?
So the first one I did a split bill with, I've mentioned him a lot on this podcast. He's getting his money worth out of me, but with Josh Wolf. And I was very fortunate because we lived together as well, and I was very lucky because he's such a lovely. But the boy can't do admin for toffee, but he's lovely. But that was part of it. There's quite a lot of admin that goes behind it. It's quite high pressured, and I sorted everything out. I sorted out our accommodation, the venue we had, all the stuff for that, and basically the day I landed in Edinburgh, that was the day of the Amuse Moose final.
Wow.
So it was just a very busy day, and then it's just a very intense bubble to be in as a performer, in my opinion. Everyone has a different take, but I did a split bill, and then the next year I did a 40-minute show for the whole run. I didn't really enjoy that very much either. I just think it's a long time and it's very expensive, and there's, for example, I last year I did quite a lot of the smaller festivals, but I did Buxton Festival. I don't know if you've been to it. I cannot.
I want to go. Yeah,
it is so much fun, and it's one of those ones. It has everything going on at the time. So exactly for the pace of, I think it's 2 weeks they run for. There's like an opera festival, a comedy festival, a gallery, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful, and they also for the first weekend they have a huge carnival type thing, and they shut down the entire city in the evening and everybody just gets battered and it's wonderful. And like the next morning the main road was sticky to touch. No joke, it was brilliant. But that was more my vibe. It just felt more relaxed. It felt like everybody was there to just be silly and test stuff out. But I think there's a lot of pressure at the Edinburgh Festival, and I think that for me makes it more difficult and it makes it less enjoyable. I don't know if that'll change, but that's how it's currently felt for the past few times I've done it.
I think doing 25 nights must be exhausting.
Well, exactly, because you're doing that, and then you're doing, well, you just watch 50 shows in a week. I'm
shattered just watching it. Yeah,
exactly, yeah. And then every day you're doing your own show, you're promoting yourself on other shows, you're physically running around. And my step count, my phone thought I was unwell, like there was a malfunction. My pedometer went off the chart. But it's that, and you sort of become incredibly unaware of the outside world. Your life, there's nothing outside of Edinburgh. You only have other people around who are encountering the same thing. It can be quite intense, and there's a lot of financial pressure. And I like I said, I adore arts festivals. I think they're a wonderful thing. I really do. But I just feel that one has got a bit intense. I feel it's kind of like my day job's in software, and a lot of it I have to update systems that are out of date, and it's not that system doesn't work anymore, it's just it doesn't work for the modernized world. And I kind of feel, maybe in my very, very humble opinion, with not the level of knowledge I imagine somebody on an Edinburgh committee would have, that perhaps that's what it just needs a massive update.
Fair enough. I mean, what's interesting with it is since I've gone in 2005, first year I went, I love the grunginess of fringe festivals. So one of my favorite places, I always say, is the Pleasance Courtyard. But every year I go there, it seems to be more corporate. There's more advertising, that they've done something to it that is spoiling its character. So like you, I love other festivals as well. And particularly this year, we're recording this in January 2023. I've got the Bristol Slapstick Festival coming up just for one night. I've got the Leicester Comedy Festival, which I'm going to for 5 nights. I've got the Hastings Festival. Those two who run it have been on the podcast. Yep. And in 2023, they've asked me to be a judge. Can you believe that?
Yes, so I can.
I'm going.
And then
Brighton as well.
And a sash.
Say again?
If you're going to be a judge, you're going to have to wear like a really big hat and a sash.
Well, of course.
You're going to have to go really flamboyant with this to be a judge. So you can't be half-assed.
What I'll try and do is get a tin of food as well, which I can open using my chin, because it's
1000%.
But so I'm looking forward to it. So if you're at any of them, I'll see you there.
Incredible.
Yes, definitely. I recently saw you. I think it was something like October, November time at 21 Soho as a guest for the Tickled Pink Comedy Showcase, which promotes women in comedy, which is a wonderful thing. I was extremely impressed with your routine. I thought it was literally laugh a minute. I was not surprisingly on the front row, but I'm sure you could hear me halfway back with my
usually right up there.
Normally I am, but it was sold out. Please, can you describe your writing process and where you get your ideas from for a routine?
It kind of, yeah. I just, most of it, it's going to make me sound a bit insane. There'll be one thing that pops into my head, and I don't know how it comes. It's usually when I'm doing something daft, like walking around Tesco's, and that one thing will make me laugh. And that might not be the funniest thing I'll say on stage, but there'll be things around it where I'm like, everything I'm doing has to lead up to me saying that. So for that, how long did I do? Did I do 10 minutes at that one? I think I did 10 minutes.
10 minutes. You were second on first or second?
I think I was opening, wasn't I? So it was there was like there were kind of like 3 bits I put together, and in each of those 3 bits there was something that I'd originally thought was funny, and everything else, if you like, was padding. There might have been other stuff around that was more funny than the thing I wanted to say. And I just I have to play around with my friends at the pub quite a lot, so I just have to go and chat utter nonsense, not try out material on them, but just chat utter nonsense to see how it fits in a conversational style. Because I always feel a bit embarrassed, because there's quite a lot of comedians and they go, oh, every day I book half an hour, and I'm like, oh, that's very serious. And I'm like, oh, every day I go to the pub and I sit there with my friends and just piss about. Like, that's what I like. So it doesn't sound as cool or as professional as maybe some of the others. But it was on that comedy course. Logan would always teach us. He was like, creativity comes out of play. So you have to go and be silly and do things to do that. I've never been very good at sitting there and very much just I'm doing this. It's not my thing. But if I'm playing around with my mates and we're coming up with silly things, that helps me a lot. And then I can take that and I can make it into something. But I would love to be more structured. There are so many comedy friends of mine, and they're like, oh yeah, every day I make sure I sit for an hour, and what I'll do is I'll structure it like this and this. And the other day I put some googly eyes on a box. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
All I can say is I'm looking forward to having a drink with you soon.
Anytime, as long as I can put googly eyes on your pint glass, you're all right.
Another story. I've told many a comedian this on the podcast. I've had a go at stand-up comedy myself once, years ago.
I didn't know you'd done
that. There was I knew a promoter, and he said to me, "We've got a gong show for old people. Horrible. Just it couldn't be worse. It was on a Monday afternoon." And I said, yeah, I've got 5 minutes, and I wrote about me crashing cars in Carlisle after I'd passed my driving test, and he loved it. And he said, well, go on, you've got 3 minutes. So I walked out. There was 3 people in the crowd, 3 old fellas, and I walked out and I said, good afternoon, everybody. People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the ski jumper, but I can't see the resemblance myself. Now, when I was at college, I was the double of him. And some old bloke at the back just went, fuck off. And the promoter went, have another go. I said, I don't know. I never say never again, but I think I'm going to be supporting them in the audience. So you do have my utmost admiration for doing it.
I always wondered if you'd had a crack at it, because you're such a fan, but you just like watching. You don't.
Well, never say never again, but I there is nothing better than going out on a Saturday or whatever night, really, and with your mates and having a few drinks and then sitting in a pub or a room where you know you're going to be entertained, and you just sit there and you go, right, make me laugh. And 9 times out of 10 they do. And the wonderful thing about live is it's of the moment, and it's just magical. It's so good. It must be amazing to get laughter back when you're on stage.
I love that you said 9 times out of 10 to indicate that one time. Every comedian's had, which is going to died on the arse. They're going to know, and they're going to talk about it for the rest of the night. I
sit there like that. I never heckle. I just sit in silence. Yeah. But it is it must be. A lot of comedians I've talked to say it's like a drug when you get a laugh from. Would you think that is? Does that encourage them to do it again, or?
Yeah, I think it's the same result, but I think maybe the motivations differ from comedian to comedian. I have no facts to prove this, but so for example, some of my comedian friends, they love what you've just said, that it acts as a drug, and they're thoroughly enjoying that. They are basically the center of attention, because let's be honest,
there's no ego at all.
Exactly. It's a real modest profession. But they just love it. But as long as they use that to fuel them, and then the energy generates that. But they're for me, for example, what I love more than anything is I love, especially if it's a group of mates, like if it's stag do's and hen do's can be raucous, but also if you have got them and you sort of managing them, and you can just see them having a great time. I did Comedia in Bath, and there was a stag do on the front row, and they were a bit mardy for the first half, and I went on and I was like, do you know what, sorry, I'll go in on them. And we all loved it. We all had a laugh. And then afterwards, the entire group came up to me. And sometimes when it's a stag do coming up to you, like going, "Oh, please don't be horrible. Don't be horrific." And they said I'd made their night, and they just loved it. And that's what I love, seeing a group of mates, and I'm just looking at you going, you're going to go away after this, and literally you said, and you're going to have a drink, and you're going to talk about all the silliness that happened, and you're going to be really happy you came out tonight. So that's brilliant. The same result. In that, yes, the laughter, but it's not the laughter and I'm the center of attention that fuels me. Well, I mean, not in this overly, but I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh, because some people, that might be their only night out for God knows how long, and they've arranged a babysitter, or maybe they don't have much money or whatever, and that's your, even though we hate hen do's and stag do's because they're raucous, the truth is that's their special occasion, or it's their birthday or whatever, and that's your job. So when I see it, I'm like, and they're enjoying themselves, I'm like, oh, I've done my job properly. That's good.
Wonderful. Yeah. Do you have any ambitions as a comedian? Would you like your own quiz show? Would you like anything like that? Any weird ambitions?
I'd love to do Mastermind.
Oh, wow.
I'd love to do Mastermind.
What would your specialist subject be?
I've often thought about this, right? So I'd either do something like The Life of Victoria Wood or Dinner Ladies, particularly. I could smash that. Wow. If they wanted more niche, I could do the first 3 Spyro the Dragon games.
Right.
I could do that. That's easy. I could potentially do a certain period of Hull FC rugby team. I love it. I really want that trophy. And the thing is they dumbed down the celebrity one. So I think I'd be with a shot.
Well, you can apply. You can apply anytime you like.
No, I don't want to go on normal Mastermind. That's difficult. That's really hard. I want to go. The celebrity one's easier.
Well, you can go on it. You're a comedian. Go on it. Yeah. Mine would be either Morecambe and Wise. They're my favourite comedians, or possibly Jack Lemmon. He's my favourite actor.
Yeah.
Films of Jack Lemmon would be good. Or Carlisle United, of course. Biggest fan.
You are the biggest fan.
Well, yeah, there's about 5 of us. So that would be quite good. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present? Did you have comedy growing up?
Yeah, it was. Well, you had to have it in our house. You just had to. It was the law. You couldn't leave it. We were a huge, Morecambe Wise, we big fans of. We were a huge Victoria Wood family. Really,
just amazing.
Yeah,
sad loss.
But it's just such an all-rounder. Like, I don't think. I think a lot of female comedians specifically get compared to it because people can't cope with more than one woman. But people forget that she was an incredibly talented writer, a very gifted musician, like quite a talented actor as well. It was just there's nothing similar.
Did you see her live?
No, I never saw her live. But I got my headshots done by Andy Hollingworth, who's a lovely man, and he collects memorabilia for comedy. And as a gift, he gave me a ticket stub from Victoria Wood.
Oh, wow!
Which I've got framed.
Oh, lovely. That's really.
It's really lovely. But so we loved her, and then because of that, because she was very inspired by Joyce Grenfell, so we quite like Joyce Grenfell. And in terms of present, it's quite lovely because I've never, until I did comedy, I've never done anything creative, so it's really quite nice to have all these creative friends that you just are massively in awe of. Like, again, obviously I love Josh and what he does, and his TikToks are fantastic. I'm really enjoying Flo and Joan at the minute. I think they're very funny.
They have a song about cracker packing in Carlisle. I walk past it every day to go back home. Unbelievable. I got them to sign it for me.
Quite right.
They are really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed them. I really like Katie Pritchard. I think she's very silly and very funny.
Yeah.
Esther, Manita, and Lily.
Yeah, superb. Yeah. Really good, cracking lineups you've got there. That's good.
I would run the best comedy night, Richard, tell me right now, if I could be bothered.
I would say the reason, as I say, for the blog is Morecambe and Wise. I'm trying to get Gary Morecambe to talk about his dad here, which would be incredible. Les Dawson I saw in the 70s, as I said. Tommy Cooper we saw in the 70s. The curtains opened, he's lying on a bed, and there's one woman crying in the audience at him, and he hasn't done anything, he's just lying there. And after about 5 minutes, he pops his head up and he goes, What? Somebody come on. And the whole place just go up. He was brilliant. I got the bug for the thing. I've got an enormous spreadsheet of every single act I've ever seen since the 70s, which is amazing and just extraordinary. I've Rick Mail we saw in Carlisle, Ben Elton at college, Frank Skinner, French and Saunders, on and on and on and on. Bill Hicks we saw in Manchester, he was amazing. But the newer comedians now, Josh Balfe is wonderful. You're superb. You always make me laugh when I see you. I love Josh Widdicombe. I think he's just superb on stage. I'm hoping he's going to do this as well. He's keen to do it. There's just so many of them, but I love female comedy as well. My favourite female comedian is Kerry Godliman. She can do no wrong for me. I love Jem Brister, Aisling B. You mentioned Victoria Wood. You mentioned. We saw her in Carlisle, and I saw her at the
very jealous.
Saw her at the Albert Hall as well. Victoria Wood at it again. Great.
Yes. I think we had that DVD and I played it to death.
Oh, just wonderful. And the books behind me, they're all comedy biographies of them all. So very, very passionate about this wonderful thing that is comedy, as you know. Just following on from that, like me, do you go to a lot of comedy shows as a member of the audience, even before you were a comedian or when you were a comedian?
Before I was a comedian, I did. I used to go quite a bit because I was living in London, so I went to Angel.
Yeah,
comedy quite a bit. Yeah. And I watched. Yeah, I did watch a lot of stand-up. I don't do it as much anymore, but that's mostly because in the evenings either I myself am gigging, or you just need a night off. Do you know what I mean? Like I had a friend who used to be she used to be a babe.
Even I can't do it 5 nights a week.
Oh, but it's like I used to have a friend, and for one summer she was a Bailey's tester. So every hour she had to go and taste the batches to make sure they're not curdled. And at first she was like, what a wonderful job. But then she was like, God, honestly, after a few days, I just wanted to vomit constantly. Do you know what I mean? You just overindulge, don't you? So you just need a break. So it's kind of like that.
That's great. Would you say that if you were on a bill of acts, would you stay and watch all the acts?
Depends who the acts are.
Depends who they are. Right.
No, but like I do, like for example, I'm actually going to I don't have a gig myself tomorrow, but I'm going to Soho Theatre to see Amy Gledhill, a fellow comic, very good.
Yeah.
And then in March April, going to see my very, very good friend Sarah Keyworth, because they're doing the Blues Through Theatre, and I'm very proud of them because I think they've sold it out, which is very cool. So I will make some exceptions.
Sarah's brilliant. Sarah Keyworth is superb. I've seen her many times. Have you done many online gigs as opposed to live gigs, and what do you think of them?
I didn't really. So mostly because when they sort of kicked off, because of my day job, I already had to be on a screen all day anyway. So the idea of then doing it in the evening would have driven me further to drink. I couldn't go. So I just sort of take it. I was fortunate enough that I sort of missed that phase. But I do think there is huge potential in it, especially for a comedian. Like a lot of comedians who did do them said it was wonderful. I could do a gig, close my laptop, and then I was immediately in my living room, and I didn't have to travel back and forth and do this, and that's really lovely. I really think there will be something more with for them to make money more than anything, to be honest with you, comedy clubs doing at least one night a week where it is a live stream.
Totally.
I think more of them will. It's not economically it makes more sense for them. It's more viable for some audience members, especially in terms of access at the minute. If you go, you might not be able to afford to come because of everything included, but if you pay a smaller amount, you can have it streamed into your living room and still get a chance. I think that's a really good opportunity. So I think comedy clubs will slightly be forced, but also choose to at least once a week do a live stream. I think it'd be very silly if they didn't.
It's interesting because when lockdown happened, having online comedy was a lifeline for many people. I would watch Sean James's Happy Mondays gig online. It would always be comedy online. I'd watch Boosby Grafo did one which was just his guitar and him singing. It was fantastic. And then on a Friday, I'd watch Jarlath Regan's Irishman Abroad. And when they were done well, they were done really well. But when they first started off, they never had any audio. So I was sitting here laughing at four walls. I thought I was going to be taken away. But when they opened up the audio, the comedians could get the beat of the jokes and they could chat to the audience, and it worked really well. And a lot of the good ones still do online shows, like you say, and I totally agree with you. But you can't beat live, as I said before, because you're in the moment and anything can happen, and it's just magical. I've so much enjoyed chatting to you. It's been absolutely wonderful, Liz. You're a fantastic guest and a great comedian. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go? Have you got, what's your social media? Have you got any podcasts, anything like that?
So my social media for Twitter and Instagram is _L Atkinson _ because it's aesthetically pleasing to look at. You look at it as a thing. And I'm very good on Instagram because I like putting googly eyes on random things when I'm at gigs. So if you're a big googly eye fan, then follow my Instagram stories for sure. And this year as well is also I'm taking my debut hour to Edinburgh this year. So I am at Leicester and I am at Hastings and Bath and Brighton and Wandsworth Fringe and loads of places.
I live literally in Wandsworth, so if I don't see you at any of them, I'll see you there. But I will definitely come and see you because I just enjoy your comedy. When your name's on a bill, I know I'm going to have a good time, and that is just wonderful, isn't it? Because I know what I'm going to get because I've seen you before, but I recommend you to other people and they come back and say, she's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So please keep doing what you do because it's a joy to watch and you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rhett.
And all the best to you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.